It's basically made up of three components: our activities dealing with the local emergency planning committee. We also conduct hazard analysis in Monroe County, and we work with the Southeast Regional Domestic Security Task Force for Region 7, which is Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe. The fiscal impact of this program on our budget, I've listed here the different contracts and grants that make up the emergency preparedness program. They add up to about $700,000. Approximately a third of that is kept in-house. The rest is passed through for a variety of activities, which I'll get into in my presentation. By the way, this amount is about a third of our overall $2.4 million budget. So it's a significant impact on the council and its financial resources. There are 10 LEPCs in the state, just like there are 10 regional planning councils. Our district, same as the council, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties. When it comes to domestic security, we work closely with Palm Beach County. LEPCs were created in 1988 by the state legislature to implement in Florida the Emergency Preparedness Community Right to Know Act that was passed by Congress. Our next meeting is August 21st. The meetings are open to the public. We have approximately 48 members. They're made up from a variety of county, municipal, state agencies, Department of Health, Environmental Protection, Transportation. We have several fire rescue departments: Miami-Dade, Miami-Fort Lauderdale, and Marathon. Miami-Dade Durham is represented, Water and Sewer, Broward Environmental and Consumer Protection Division, and a number of others that I won't get to read for the sake of time. The LEPC is not a response agency like a fire department. We're rather a resource provider. We have contact information on the fire departments, fire rescue, hazmat teams, county, municipal, state agencies. We also have information on facilities that have hazardous materials, their location, the names of representatives, phone numbers, the chemicals they have, quantities. We provide free hazmat training. We do presentations and public outreach, and we also conduct training exercises. Hazard analysis are required of facilities that have hazardous materials. In our region, Miami-Dade and Broward conduct their own. We are contracted by Monroe County to do those in that county. They're a rather small number. I think there are about 24 altogether, and we do 12 each year, so they are rotated every other year. Basically, we, in most cases, do a site visit to a location. We verify the address, verify the names of the individuals, 24-hour contact numbers, very important in case there's an incident. First responders, when they pick up the phone and call a 24-hour number, they need to know that there's actually a person that will answer that phone. We verify the chemicals they have, the amounts, and very important, the largest container in the facility with those chemicals. The larger container then allows us to run it through some software and determine the probable affected area. If there were to be an incident, the largest amount that would be spilled, of course, would be the largest container that they have. As I mentioned, we plan and conduct training exercises. Here's a list of some of the events that we have hosted over the last several years. I call to your attention the last one on the list. This was June 19 here in this office. We have had about 60 participants, 26 different state, county, municipal agencies. Many of our private sector partners were present. We turned around this room. We turned it into a virtual emergency operations center. We also utilized our meeting room as a satellite meeting space. It was very well received. It was very intense. It was a success, I have to admit. We also offered free hazmat training to responders, public and private sector from our district. I'd like to note that over the last 17 years, we have trained about 5,000 individuals. Nearly 73,000 hours of training have been provided free of charge. Some of the training that we have offered this year, we were able to sponsor and send 27 mostly firefighters from the area to the Hazmat Symposium in Daytona Beach in January. That's becoming the preeminent hazardous materials and fire rescue symposium in the Southeast with approximately 600 and some registered individuals. We were able to send 27. We are on track to offer 3 house whopper refresher classes. We did one in Broward for the Environmental and Consumer Protection Division. And we're going to offer 2 to Miami-Dade Derm actually this week in downtown Miami. More importantly, we also were able to sponsor 160 hours for hazmat technicians. This is the kind of training that a firefighter is required to take in order to qualify to be on the hazmat team. It does not guarantee a position on the hazmat team, but this is required training. So we've been able to sponsor that in Broward. Just earlier this year, we had 20 students, mostly from Fort Lauderdale Fire and Hollywood. And we just completed a class in Key West. We had 24 of their firefighters take the training. I believe that they're interested in standing up a hazmat team in the city. As you know, they are a long way from mainland, which is the nearest official hazmat team. And so it's very important to have this kind of ability in the firefighters down in Monroe County, and especially in Key West. We also hosted 43 students from facilities that have chemicals and helped them to understand what is required for them to file their annual reports with the state. Over the last few years, we've spent a little over $15,000 purchasing equipment, training equipment that is used by hazmat teams in our district, or can be used by them to train. They simulate rail cars, they simulate tank cars, a variety of other valves and equipments. We also provided some kits that are used to plug those leaks on the tanks and in the hoses and different things. After purchasing the equipment, we also purchased a trailer that can house the equipment. It can be transported to training where needed. The trailer is housed and maintained by the Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue for the region. We were able, through the efforts of Fort Lauderdale, to put logos on the trailer from the 7 hazmat teams in our district. So it gives that sort of ownership for the people that use the equipment. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Stephen Shaw. He's the vice chair of the LEPC. He's also a battalion chief of training and special ops for Fort Lauderdale. He's the hazmat team coordinator. He chairs the research and development committee. He was recently appointed to the hazmat committee, and this is a big deal. The International Association of Firefighters. This is a big organization. He chairs the training and education subcommittee for the Broward Fire Chiefs. He's also on the USAR Task Force 2 out of Miami that is called to respond to catastrophes in Haiti after a hurricane, on the Gulf Coast when another hurricane hit, different situations like that. Steve has an MBA and a BS in chemistry from FAU. He's also a registered nurse. He has a beautiful wife, 2 wonderful boys. In his spare time, he brews beer and makes handcrafted soap. Please welcome Stephen Shaw.
I won't take up much of your time. I just wanted to kind of make sure that you all knew how of a great relationship we have with the LEPC and how proud we are to work along with Manny these past few years. I'll be the first one to say that about 6-7 years ago, I didn't know what LEPC stood for. I'll be quite honest. Coming from the streets, going into administration, you don't always know what your resources are. You know, from a tactical sense, what you need, who to ask for to get it, and so on and so forth. And when I met Manny and got involved, I realized very quickly how much of and you mentioned resources, how much of a resource LEPC has been to us in the hazardous materials community in the South Florida area. So I want to make sure I thanked Manny and you all specifically for that. I will say a couple things. These days, I don't know how we would function without you guys' support, to be quite honest. And you saw it up in a couple slides ago, between the classes, between the training, between the opportunity to go to places like Daytona for the extra amount of phenomenal training they have up there, the Hazmat Symposium, between the props that we use the heck out of. I got to tell you, I can sit here and thank you guys all day, but you would throw me out after a while. So bottom line is, we are definitely appreciative of all the training and support you've given us. We definitely use the equipment that is there. It doesn't just sit inside that trailer. We pull it out all the time. They love pulling it out in the middle of the August weather in Florida. They love it. They love me for it. I will say also that the tabletop exercise that y'all hosted last month was a phenomenal success. Having been part of several deployments, both real and tabletop in nature, I can tell you that it was definitely well received. The information was on point, and the stress created at that incident was very close to real. So well done there as well. So on behalf of Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue and the hazmat teams and the hazardous materials community in the South Florida area, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for your support. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to wrap it up in a few more slides. I wanted to bring to your attention the work that we do with the Southeast Regional Domestic Security Task Force, Region 7. The RDSTF has members that include law enforcement, fire rescue, emergency management, environmental, hospitals, education, the private sector. The counties that are in Region 7 are Palm Beach South, so it's one more county than the Regional Planning Council. We receive grants from the RDSTF, from DHS. It's called a UASI grant. We also get a SHISCAP grant. With those, we're able to act as fiscal agents for 8 to 10 regional information analysts. They are housed at Miami-Dade PD, at BSO, and Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. They do work for the Fusion Center. They collect information. They make it available to the Fusion Center. It's a very important. It's a work that we were able to work with the region to bring to the council, and it's a very important activity, part of the overall work we do. We also assist the region in planning, coordinating, and conducting training exercises. Here's a list of some of the exercises that we have either coordinated, planned, or directed over the last number of years. The ones that are highlighted, I'm going to speak about very briefly. In 2009, we worked with the Federal Reserve Bank of Miami in Doral. We had the cooperation of Doral Police Department, Miami-Dade Fire. We were able to film them. We brought in some smoke machines, set them up around the building, and simulating a plane crash. And those pictures and video added a lot of realism when we had the exercise with the staff of the Federal Reserve Bank working on their evacuation plans. In 2012, we blew up a school, a white bus. It was painted white so that it would not draw that level of attention. It was basically a CSI exercise.
At the time?
I'm sorry?
It was empty at the time.
Yes, sir, yes. It was very much. In fact, it had to be a pool there. It had no liquids, it had no combustible material, and it was an exercise for the CSI teams in the region to, after the explosion, go in and collect evidence throughout the day. In 2014, we were at the Miami Beach Convention Center and City Hall. We had active shooter, IEDs, hazmat release, hostages, all kinds of things going on from morning to late at night. In 2016, we had the first of the heat shield exercises. This started out at 6 in the morning at Downtown Government Center in Miami-Dade. Also the courthouse next door. It went to several locations around Miami-Dade. We worked with the Coast Guard in Miami Beach. They allowed us to use one of their cutters for an active shooter incident. There were schools involved. We had an abandoned mansion in Fisher Island that they allowed us to go in and do a hostage rescue. And at the end of the day, we ended up at Marlins Park, where there was a pretend shooting, and then the SWAT teams were able to go in and take care of that situation. As a follow-on, in 2018, we were in Palm Beach County, starting in the morning at Wellington Green Mall. The courthouse, we had a venue in Lake Okeechobee. We had something out in one of the sugar cane farms out where they had some tanks and a pretend release of hazardous material. We had a hostage rescue in a school bus. And at the courthouse, we actually used a borrowed customs helicopter, and it allowed the SWAT teams, to rappel down or fast rope from the helicopter to the courthouse and do their work there. Just recently, in May of this year, we had the third part of Heat Shield. This was really a major event. It took place simultaneously starting at 6 in the evening in Port Miami, Port Everglades, Port of Palm Beach. It included 15 other venues all throughout the 3 counties. We had more than 26 agencies, departments, law enforcement, fire rescue, emergency management, all kinds of folks. Nearly, I think we added up 1,974 participants in the 3 counties. The exercise was funded by FEMA and evaluated as well. And it went on from about 4 in the afternoon when we reported May 15 and ended up almost at 6 a.m. the following day. So it was run overnight. It tested all kinds of things. We're in the process of writing the after-action report for that. And if I indulge you for a moment while I entertain any possible questions, I'd like to play this in the background. I've taken the volume out. It's done in Spanish, but it shows what was going on at Port Miami. There are similar events that were happening in that exercise in Port Everglades and Port of Palm Beach. At the Palm Beach Fire Rescue Headquarters, they train on something called PEMS, which is a rescue task force. It's a new method that fire rescue and law enforcement are working on together to go into an area where there has been a shooting, to a warm zone where law enforcement has gone through and cleared the area, but not entirely. Fire rescue is embedded in a group of law enforcement. They go in, they find the victims, they do quick triage, they bring them out under armed guard, and then outside they're able to handle them. It's credited nationwide with saving a lot of lives, getting there to the victims right away, and able to take care of bringing them out while the rest of law enforcement is still handling the active shooter incident. It's something that is being engaged on by all the fire rescues, and certainly in our area. I'll let this play in the background for a few moments, and I will answer any questions you might have.